And how you feel about being the dog today?
Pretty pissed off. Don't know why I'm a dog again, but fuck it. I mean, screw it, but let's just get it right.
What's your name?
Hi, my name is Deanna, and I'm the second dog of the day.
How do you feel about being the dog today?
I feel all right. I don't know why Coach chose me specifically, like out of the girls, but I think I got this. Thank you. Hey guys, it's Deanna, and this is me after the workout. I won all the reps that I needed to win, even though Coach tried to challenge us on the last rep. But I survived today. See you guys next time.
Even though it's been a couple of days, I still remember how it felt to be a dog. I remember I was a bit bummed going into the workout, just low energy. But Coach sent me the text the night before saying, "Hey, you're gonna be a dog today." Just helped me focus and just kind of lit a fire within me. Just helped me focus and want to work on what he and I both thought cost us the race. And the ending was also pretty cool too. You know, Coach has always talked about him being able to whoop us in reps or beat us in blocks, but I didn't believe him. But I guess him running with us kind of surprised me, and him doing like that surprised me. But yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah, hog down. Damn.
We're gonna keep going with it. Hopefully episode by episode we get a little bit more advanced with our skill. Definitely challenging. Kind of underestimated that part. We got a lot of questions. A lot of people reached out to us. We won't get to all of them today. I think the one particular question we'll touch on is 400. We won't really touch on how to run the four, but we'll throw some hints out there. That's towards the end. We kind of want to recap of the dog practices and things like that. But the number one question I received, after the first episode is people wanted more background on Daniel and how me and his path crossed. I think, the best way to hear that stuff is straight out of Daniel's mouth. Because I don't want to, I'll let him tell. I don't want to over exaggerate his experience and things like that. So, Daniel, I'm gonna let you take the floor for the first portion.
I mean, shoot. I'm trying to remember now. It's like 2023, I think, was just a simple conversation about athletics, right? And we're like, oh, I'm the track coach. If you wanted to come, like, work with me, let me know. And I was like, because that was something I mentioned, like, I wanted to be involved. And since then, been to nationals with you, traveled. Is it the west side? West coast. Let me not say west side before they kill me. But I think it was literally just a conversation of athletics, yo. It was fun. It was nice. First time being to nationals in any sport. First time being to Indiana. First time meeting a lot of coaches. It was fun. It's still fun because I still think about it from day to day. Just keeping up with track, keeping up with athletes. But yeah, background Nigerian. Um, I watch a lot of sports, basketball, NFL, Rams, NBA, the Knicks. So those are the two teams I support, but mostly literally we bounce off each other in every sport. So it was like, yeah, since then I've enjoyed working with you.
Well, there you have it. A little bit of his background. I know everyone, hey, what's his background? Even my mom, he needs to tell me his background. So that I thought that was pretty funny and unique. Um, so Dan, let's get this going. What questions you got for me? What's on the agenda? You the guy that keep me organized.
I mean, I think you already started with the first one. Where we ended off last year, dog practice. What does the dog practice entail? What is it basically?
So dog practice, I designed it. I actually designed it a year ago, but I didn't implement it until this year because I was trying to figure out a strategy where, I wouldn't be scrutinized or, the day and age we live in, I didn't know if it'd be acceptable or not. But pretty much it's a practice where I have some blue pennies and you'll see I took a video of them for the Instagram post talking about technological stuff. I don't know how to video there and then switch. So you won't see the actual dog practices on here. I might be able to edit them in. But you get these blue pennies and every night before practice, our hard practices or our rhythm runs, I'll email dog tomorrow at practice. Everyone says, how do I become a dog? One of my athletes in the video, we had to record them, and they go, I don't know why I'm a dog today. And I just started laughing because I'm watching the videos as we're trying to put this whole, sprint slow together. And to answer that question to my athlete, because I know y'all watch it now, because y'all told me, we go based off of strength and weaknesses. If I sense weakness, I know the big thing is our practice wasn't even a hard practice, it was more of a mental hard practice. We had rhythm runs, a little bit different from tempo runs. Um, and we had a meet on Friday and our rhythm runs on Saturday. And then we had some complications with getting out with the bus, was waiting on a couple people, got back a little bit late, traffic. And I knew you know, David had to run the 4x4. I just introduced him to the 4x4. So to run the 4x4 and then have to come back and do rhythm runs the next day, at the distance that we were doing, and it was going to be challenging for him. And I knew he thought he was safe because he just competed, and we had some people stay behind. And then I chose Deanna because she's just passionate about the sport. She's one of our developmental athletes. Realistically, our whole team is developmental. I inherited a great group of individuals. But to cut to the chase, I sense the weakness in a certain area, and it's okay to have weakness in a certain area. We all do, but as coach, I'm trying to prepare you psychologically. So depending on the workout, I'll look at who struggles the most with what workout and challenge them and put the penny on. And sometimes the dog isn't always the one that's physically lacking. It might be mentally. And this week was mentally. Deanna got chosen because, I knew she thought, oh, I might be safe because I work hard. No, no, no. I want you to be consistent. So in those practices, what we do is you're allowed, you can't come in under third place in those practices. Um, and this week it was just a rhythm run. Normally it's a all out workout generally, but this week we squeezed it into the rhythm run because we knew that the kids, the mental component of coming back. And basically, like I said, you got to come in top three in all your reps. And in the last two reps of however many reps we do, you got to come in top two. If you do not come in top three, the reps don't count. If you don't come in top two on the last rep, that rep don't count. We will modify the rep, whether distance, but you have to do something. And we kind of calculate how many meters you run in total and potentially how many meters you can run in total. And we fluctuate intensity as well. Because if we go over the meters, then obviously you gotta drop intensity. And we do stuff like that. So kind of playing with volume and intensity, and understanding that as a dog, if you want to succeed for that day, you gotta go here, here, and here. It's really a mental challenge. It's to challenge you to dig deep. And we call it, we got the last two reps, which is called the dog rep. And on meet day, I want you to bring out the dog. So I'm changing that psychological aspect as well. We know a good portion of track and field is mental, and I felt like actually piggybacking off of that and bring you kind of into the Stony Brook chapter, a big thing that I'm working with my group is that competitive mentality. Um, Last year, I ordered a laser system that I could time athletes in practice with. I've noticed that we run way faster in practice than at meets. And I noticed with my group, they're going on, I think they fourth or fifth coach. When they get to meets based off of prior experiences, you know, they're a little bit shy when it comes to meets. So trying to improve that mental component and get that practice to have a more stimulation than the actual event does with anxiety and trying to create replicate that anxiety in practice so when they get to the meets, this is nothing. We survive dog practices and things like that. And I think the athletes like it because everybody's like, who's going to be the dog this week? We typically do it once a week. The next segment, we might be able to do it twice a week. It's really when needed. Some athletes might say, "Hey, coach, I want to be the dog this week. I had a bad week this week," you know. And outside of the dog practices, we know with track and field that if there's a negative person in the group, sometimes practice tend to be harder.
Mm.
So we know that, sometimes people don't take that constructive criticism really well. So we also got a penny where you could put on where it's like if you was negative and it affected someone training, you might get that penny for that day. And it's not to say you're a negative person, but something you said to make you conscious of like what you say and how you go on to practice. And then sometimes that penny you put on could just simply be, hey, we want you to boost your morale because it's affecting your performance as well. And we just want everyone to get better. And it don't matter what teammate is coming from, we all want each other to get better. And so that's why we just do a penny and I give the person that other color penny. And we already discussed as a group. We do it like that so it's not directly criticism from one person. It's just like, hey, whether you think you are doing well or not, or positive or not, you can do better. And then if you're ready to learn and take that constructive criticism, it's like, okay, I gotta be better.
I mean, I think he- after hearing it, I want to ask you a question. Right? It's kind
Yep.
of it's this topic. Do you think? Because I've worked with you, right? Do you think previously you've tried to implement the dog practice? And because the reason why I'm asking this is people, I want people to really understand that it does work, right? Have you tried to implement before, and what has happened? The progression of athletes that you have done this with throughout the season. How did they progress over the season?
Well, I think I've implemented it in groups within groups. Um, and normally those athletes are my number one athletes. You're talking about an athlete that I had prior that came in running 24s out of high school, and then he ran 21-1 a year later, not even maybe 6 months later. But he understood the conversation I had with him, and I had brought in one of the athletes that ran for Team US to talk to him as well. Um, he brought in, he bought into the idea of you have to die in practice to get better on specific days. And in certain practices, you have to survive. But that's that dog mentality. The dog mentality is not only die, it's to be smart as well and apply track IQ. Whatever skill that we're trying to improve, I want you to bring that dog mentality out.
That makes sense. I'm really hoping people really understand that it actually does work. It's not the first time it's been implemented. He's just being more enforced with it. I'm gonna move towards a vending machine. You mentioned it last episode as well. What does a vending machine look like? What is a vending machine?
Well, the vending machine theory is kind of, when I have that conversation with my athletes, when they hit the bump in the road, freshmen, you wanna party, some drink, some smoke. Let's be realistic here. I always tell my freshmen, you got social life, athletic, and academics. One gonna have to suffer, but you always get that outlier, or I think that's the correct terminology. But you always get that one kid that oh, coach, I've been, you over here. Oh, I've been drinking or XYZ, and it's not affecting my performance. You can go out and have fun. So I came up with this vending machine theory, and I think for most people this has happened. And I try to explain it to the athlete. Like, you ever been to the vending machine and you got a lot of change in your pocket, and you want A5. You want that bag of Doritos purple chip. That's what it was when I was in high school. That bag of Doritos purple chip bag. Everybody wanted that. and you think you got enough change, so you feeling good because you about to get that bag of chips. And as you start going into your pocket, boom, 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 and you putting the money in, you feel good because you keep finding change, and then you get down to that last 25 cent and you don't have it.
Yep.
Well, that's the vending machine effect that I'm talking about, where when you drinking or smoking in season, it don't, most of the time it don't affect you initially. It's when you get down to that last 25 cent of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really know how much change you have in your pocket. And that's the same thing with the drinking and smoking. You don't really know how it's gonna affect you long term. So you putting the change in, and then one day you're gonna reach in for that last 25 cent, that 10 cent, that 15 cent. Because that's what it's been for me when I'm at a vending machine and I don't have it. And it ain't gonna be there, and you're gonna be, I can't cash out, right? And that's kind of the vending machine theory. I tell athletes, um, and I want athletes to know, to be an athlete, no matter what level, it takes sacrifice. Definitely takes sacrifice. And that's one of the questions we did have this week: is what does it take to be an athlete? Can you party in season? You can, but what type of athlete do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, eh, and that's the big thing. You either an athlete or you enjoying student life. You can do both. I think if you set the foundation
Mm-hmm.
um early on as a freshman and work now, so you could build your base so you could have more freedom later. I think that's the smart thing. But I was talking to an athlete today. I said, don't live retired now, so you got to work for the rest of your life. And that's from you know a work mentality. A
Yeah.
lot of our freshmen come in and don't survive because they try to enjoy campus life. They go to year two and realize they're behind performance wise
Mm-hmm.
and academics wise sometimes, and
Yep.
now they're trying to make up for lost time.
Yep. So I know we've talked on the background outside of track. Now going into the on hands experience, we're talking about sprints. We're talking about sprints, the 100 to the 400, right? Something essential at every race is a block. Um, and something everybody asked about is the block start. What would an ideal? I know what an ideal block start is based on your philosophy. What's an ideal block start? What does that look like?
Well, I think that's definitely something I want to cover in smaller reels, like on IG and stuff moving forward. But let's talk about the blocks. I got a pet peeve for the blocks for my philosophy, and then other coaches, y'all might chime in later on. And I don't like when I see an athlete just put their feet in the blocks and drop down and get down.
Mm,
I think the way you come out the blocks is the way you should lower yourself in. So if I have my block set up, first thing I'm doing, if you don't have a measuring tape and you can't measure the right measurements, a good thing to do initially is always focus on the front lead leg and let measure your shin lengths from the lead block to the white line. I like to say about an inch, depending on the time of season, early season about an inch between your shin lengths and the white line. But towards the end of the season, when you get a little bit strong, a little bit more stability in your setup, take that inch away. I think that's the first step. That back block, I think that has to be determined based off of video analysis and the way you pull that leg out when you fire out, when you press off that first step, that heel recovery, what they call it. I think that's key. But as far as loading the blocks, I believe your knees shouldn't hit the ground
mm-hmm,
until you get that low mechanism where you can feel the tendon in that big toe stretch, the tendon and the Achilles tendon stretch, and then
mm-hmm,
when you lock it in and you in that ready position, someone shouldn't be able to come by and pull your leg or move your foot. It should be having so much pressure between you and the block in that ready position that you can just push off the block instead of have to push back and then go forward.
mm-hmm,
I think that's the big thing. And then with elbow separation, because I know I touched on elbow separation. Everybody like, what does he mean by elbow separation? A lot of people focus on hands and they get they're here. We want to call elbow separation here initially in the blocks to go here. A lot of people can't achieve that elbow separation because they like to have their head up in the blocks, and that takes away from your range of motion sometimes. So if you can keep that head down, and now I can go here with it easy, it feels more natural. There might be some people out there that's a little bit more flexible than I am that can probably get their arm up there, but I feel when I have my neck back and then my arm up. And what that looks like in the blocks is when you're up and you're looking up, it instigates stiffness, in my opinion. It's
Mm.
just like the theory of having your elbows locked. If your elbows locked, then your shoulder's gonna be locked. So
Yeah.
for your block starts, the big thing for me is elbow separation. When you tell the kids, keep your shoulders loose, but try to keep your elbows as far like swing your elbows and sweep as far as part as possible, trying to get it, that separation.
Mm-hmm.
Generally you'll see them try, and if they can't, those kids have their head up. And I say, okay, now try to keep your chin close to your chest. You know what I'm saying? About right here. And you'll see instantly with those cues they get more time to push. Ground contact time is a little bit longer than the
Mm-hmm.
upright phase, but they're creating more inertia, more power, more force. And then last but least, trying to keep your foot dorsiflexed. I'm not saying you got to land flat footed. I think different athlete, different vision kind of sometimes, but you got to stay close to that parameter. I always say try to start with a starting point,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of move away slowly as you improve technique. At least so when you move away so far, everything's going wrong, you can go back to that starting point and
Mm-hmm.
then kind of move away a little bit and find that sweet spot. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the big thing with the blocks. And like I said, we're gonna try to get some videos up. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to video and keep it in that. I think it's 3 or 2 minutes for like Instagram and stuff, but try to get some videos of what I'm talking about for the blocks. But I think that's very important, and I think a lot of people don't understand how to set up the blocks and explode out the blocks. I think and going back to someone asked me in one of the questions, do you push off your back leg or your lead leg? In theory, you push off both.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, factually, you push off both, but you do push off the front leg longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, When I'm working with a new athlete and I just want them to learn how to be explosive,
Yeah.
generally I'll tell them just push off the front leg so they can understand what it's like to propel. And
Mm-hmm.
as they get stronger, boom. Another thing I'm seeing is the toe drag and the high blocks. Um, the toe drag, if it naturally happen, that's what I say. And then putting your feet higher on the blocks. I don't think people, some athletes don't realize you got to be strong to be able to. The higher you put your feet up on the blocks, the stronger you got to be.
Mm-hmm.
Double knee down. I'm gonna be honest. And coaches, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like double knee down is not effective for the 100 meter. I feel like it's a 200, 400 meter when you're trying to control your speed acceleration, have a little bit more control, not go out as hard, a little bit more less ballistic start because you got a longer race. I feel like the double knee down is ideal, but in a 100 meter, I haven't really seen it be that effective. And if it is effective, that athlete was just way more talented than that athlete. But also, when in doubt, go with what the athlete feels most comfortable with to get the best performance from that athlete at the time. I think that's one thing as well.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you mentioned the 400, right? I think one of the questions from last episode was the 400. Um, according to your philosophy, what is a 400 meter like?
Say it again.
I said, so a question that came up was the 400 last episode, right? One of the questions. What is for you? How do you attack a 400? I know a lot of people are running away from the 400 nowadays, but I feel like that's the fun. That's the most fun event to watch. So how do you attack a 400?
There's to me, there's no right answer to that question. I think it depends on the athlete and how
Mm-hmm.
fast they're running. Do you plan to run that 400 in a minute or less than a minute, depending on energy systems, what type of 400 runner you are. Now,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I can say, I believe the 400 is a developmental event for young athletes for sure. I believe all young athletes should start off running the floor because you get more repetition with practice and technique. It's a little bit more forgiving early on, and as you develop the athlete, I think all younger athletes should run the floor. As far as what you should do to run the floor, The one thing that I think that I could set in stone with the four is one thing I think to be successful with the four is be careful with practicing race pace when you're still developing your speed and the base for the 400. Because in my opinion, that is if you're running the 400 and you're practicing race pace and you're not fast enough to get to that 200 mark, what are we practicing? You
Mm,
know, and we could be working on development right there, and you might not see the benefits of that speed development early on. But if you can't get to the 100-meter mark on time, the 200-meter mark on time, and you practice in race pace, I think all that time can go somewhere else. I think you start practicing race pace late in the season when you fully tapped out, the acceleration and top end speed. Um, and then speed endurance as well. And then you can go to that sport specific training. That's the best advice I can give on a broad perspective for the 400. We got 10 minutes, Daniel. They saying we got 10 minutes.
I know. So I mean, I feel like as far as we try to work on quality over quantity, as far as
Yeah.
episode wise, I think we've covered quite a bit. I think, as you mentioned as well, as far as techniques, there's going to be a video on how to do it, all that stuff. But now think of on the viewers to think and try to apply it while they think. So because when the demonstration comes through, you already know what we're talking about. So I guess, is there any other thing you wanted to say before you wrap it up?
No, not really. Like I said, again, coaches, if you want to hop on and talk with me and Dan, definitely welcome that. Any questions, if y'all want to challenge anything, we welcome you to the show too, because this is a learning experience for us too. That's the whole point of this show. Just to hear different, perspectives, long to short or short to long, depending on who you have, it works. I think the big thing coming up next is I want to get more into the shorter segments of trying to get the Instagram short reels, trying to figure out how to put a lot of information in 2 minutes. I want to start looking at the weight room as well, and dynamic warm up and certain drills, how to effectively do the drills. And I want to do some analysis. Send me some videos for me to break down what I think. I'm not gonna catch everything, but that's the whole point of this. This thing is it's a learning experience. It's something that's challenging me technologically, and just getting out here and coming on here. Like we do have some people that we have scheduled to come on. And again, it's just making schedules meet. Um, and then we're gonna get creative. Definitely. Today was more about keeping it controlled, quality over quantity.
Mhm.
But the big thing moving forward is trying to break down race footage now and techniques. So we're gonna start with blocks. I gotta figure out how to get on here and then put the blocks up there and break it down. I know how to do it, but trying to make it look smooth for the recording and stuff like that. That's gonna be the big thing. So next episode, or next blurb we put out there, I wanna, whether it's an episode or a blurb, it's gonna be block related, probably dynamic warm up related. We'll leave some section in there for a question. Today the main question that we got was the 400. I think that's a big thing with Quincy. I'm running now. Everybody want to know how to be elite in the four. There's no more Usain Bolt, so no one's worried about the 100-meter right now. Um, so that's the big thing. And we, pole vaulters, definitely hit up, definitely reach out. I'm gonna force K down on here. He keeps saying he's coming. So that's the big thing. Outside of that, Dan, thank you. Thank you again.